Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Pete Coles, Rich Sutter, in the zone. In the zone. Pete is the reigning champion of In the Zone bracketology. And
I got lucky.
we are crowning him today as he picked the Yukon Huskies to double up, give us a back-to-back, a rare back-to-back, which is awesome and cool. And we're going to talk about that in great detail in the show today. But we're first going to start off with a little NBA Feed 'em Fish. And also, just to go off of the basketball vein for just one brief second, I did want to, this is in the basketball vein, but today is 4/11, and I was a little surprised at how many of my friends actually have this birthday. And Facebook was kind enough to display all the birthdays that I had to welcome today, and that's one of the really cool aspects of Facebook that I find. But I did want to mention 4/11 today is the birthday of one of my good friends in heaven, and his name was Rob Collins. I nicknamed him Dreamweaver way back in the day because he was maybe the original Steph Curry. He was the first guy to really test the distances on some of those shots. He would shoot from anywhere, and he had great ability to make the shots as well, too. And he was a good teammate, good athlete all around. His brother Joe was my teammate, and Victor Guzman was a great teammate of Rob's, and I played with Victor's brother Ruben. So we had this little family circle going on there. Sacred Heart High School, the Fighting Irish. Robbie's in heaven a while now, but we miss him. He was a great friend, great teammate, and I love the guy. And to this day, every single day, I miss him. So I just wanted to start off the show there to wish him a happy birthday in heaven. Dreamweaver, happy birthday, brother. We love you. All right, second piece of information, Pete, before we really get into the whole fish of the fish, before we start carving this fish up, all right, it's a holy day of obligation in the Sutter household tomorrow. Bruce Springsteen at Mohegan, and it is a holy day of obligation in the Sutter house. All right, Jordan and I are ready. We're locked in, ready to go. We want to thank Jordan's professor for canceling class on Friday so we can get out really, really early, get over there and really, really enjoy the whole thing. Mohegan is a beautiful place to watch a concert.
Yep.
Boss is my guy, and he's excited about that. Did I ever tell you the story, Pete, about my wife and I at a Boss concert?
No.
Okay, so one of the first dates I wanted to take my wife on to a Boss concert, it was Bruce Springsteen, and we got tickets that were in the Meadowlands Arena that had just opened up. It was a brand new arena, and we got third row.
Ooh.
And so that's the kind of place you take a girl you want you to be your wife in the future to.
Yep.
All right? And so my wife comes out dressed like a devil in a blue dress. Beautiful blue dress on. We go into the third row. At that time, Springsteen was bringing up people from the audience to dance with on stage during Dancing in the Dark. So Courtney Cox from Friends was the most famous of that. She became famous when he danced with her on stage, and she was seen by somebody who said, we're going to put this young lady into the TV show. All right, so we're in the third row. Concert's blasting. It's unbelievable. It's in New Jersey, so he's grinding it out in his hometown. He's given us an unbelievable show. And by all accounts, as Dancing in the Dark starts, he starts to walk down the line and look for people to dance with. He, by all accounts, and our friend Charlene would be able to back this up, he looks dead center at my now wife, Allie, and gets what we thought was going to ask her to come on stage. The security in Meadowlands Arena that night had been absolutely flawless, except they lost it on the encore. They lost it during Dancing in the Dark. So what had been once a beautiful time sitting in our chairs watching Bruce Springsteen now turns into we need to stand on our chairs, and there are 1,000 hooligans storming into our area now. So I'm on one side, and my wife is on the other. We're both standing on our chairs, and Springsteen is looking now really, really close into our area and ready to grab somebody to dance with. This hooligan decides to climb up the back of my wife's chair, screaming Bruce at the top of his lungs. My wife's chair starts to collapse. She grabs a hold of me and holds on to me. And I'm not sure how I pulled it off, but I cracked this guy with a left hand that just crumpled him onto the ground right behind my chair. Turned around and started watching the concert again like nothing happened. But for 35 years, all the time that I've been married to my wife, Every time that story comes up, I get blamed because she wasn't the next Courtney Cox because I was too aggressive. So, Bruce, if you're listening, I'm going to be at Mohegan tomorrow. I'll be with my daughter. Make it up to me, okay, please? I'm begging. I'm begging. Please, it's been 35 years. My ears are bleeding, Bruce. Please help me. Okay, Pete. Let's get into Feed 'em Fish. We got awards today, Pete. MVPs. We got all sorts of awards we're going to hand out, and we're going to give them out right now to the people in the zone. NBA season's almost done. I've seen enough. There's going to be some coasting. There's going to be some jockeying. There's a lot of playoff stuff going on, although there's not a whole lot of room for anybody now to jump up and make the playoffs. There is some room for people to jump out of the play-in game and into the regular playoff structure. So we'll be looking at that a little bit as well. But right now, we're going to give you our In the Zone NBA awards for the year. We're happy to announce them. And this has been a good year of basketball all the way around. College hoops was fabulous. Women's hoop, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Growing, expanding, blowing up on the scene, certainly. And now we're going to talk about the NBA having an amazing year, I thought. You know, really, really good, solid year for the NBA. The Celtics have been in command the entire time, so people in New England and Celtics fans love that. Maybe that's why I think it's been such a good year. But it has been a good year, I think, because there's been some surprises. There's been some young teams that have come up and really taken it on.
Yeah.
And the older generation of the NBA right now is under siege. They're under siege. If they want to keep what they got, they better hold on to it tight because these young guns are coming up and they're hungry. Okay, so MVP, Pete. I'm going to go Luka. No question in my mind about this. Now, you can tell me the Mavericks only finished here and this and that. Here's what we got, Pete. 33.9 points per game. Luka. All right? We've got 9.8 on the assists. We've got 9.2 on rebounds.
That's a hell of a line.
He is first in scoring, third in assists, 16th in rebounding, and he's second in the amount of three-pointers made behind Steph Curry. We're pulling it, Pete. We're pulling it for Luka.
Yeah.
He had his baby at the beginning of the year. It's a blessing, and now we're going to drop off a little mazel tov onto Luka. And I'm going to say right now, you're going to hear some of this stuff around this, and some of the conversation about this is not cool. And around this, it's definitely not cool. I'm not going to get into 100% of that, but it's not cool. Judge people for what they're doing. Same thing with Caitlin Clark. Judge people for what they're doing right now in the moment, okay? And they're doing some really good stuff. I'm unsure why people have to tear down as much as they do these days. And the lines that it's torn down on is very divisive and very, very much against teamwork and against what we should be looking for, I think, at least in the sports world. I know it's hard to get that everywhere. But the Rookie of the Year, Pete, who are you going to go with on the Rookie of the Year? It's an easy one, right?
Yeah. Isn't the guy that just came in from Connecticut?
No.
Oh.
Nope.
Oh,
The Big Easy.
okay.
Victor.
Yeah, Victor
Wembanyama.
Yep.
We're going to go with him. Led the league in block shots. We said last week that he has blocked more shots than 86% of the world right now. 86% of the history of the NBA. He's blocked more shots than them in one season. So I think I think they might have been right when they called him a generational player. I think he's going to be around a long time. It'll be interesting to see if he stays at San Antonio in the dilapidated condition of that team, or they start to rush some help in there for him, or they move him, to a major market arena. Is he in L.A., going to be in L.A. in a couple of years? Is he going to be in New York? Is he going to be in Chicago, one of those places? So I think Coach of the Year is going to be an interesting one. We decided to give Coach of the Year, and I was torn between this because if you have a really good team, it's easier to coach them.
Sure.
And if you have a really bad team, it's harder to get them, especially in the NBA, to produce at a pretty good level. I think Ime Udoka at Houston did an unbelievable job, but I'm not going to call his name. I'm going to go with Joe Mazzulla because it ain't easy having a great team. Now, if they get bounced in the first round of the playoffs here, if they draw the Heat again and they get bounced in the first round of the playoffs, I think you're going to see Joe Mazzulla get an exit from the Boston Celtics.
Does Doc Rivers get any love in this conversation about bringing a team that you thought you get replacing somebody mid-season?
Yeah, I mean, he has the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, there's a lot
That's
of
what I'm
heat on
saying.
him too.
Yeah, but
and so you'll find out if that was a stopgap measure to bring him in just to get rid of the coach that they had because it was a non-working situation.
yeah,
And is he the stopgap, which is then going to move on like he's a bridge? They're going to grab him, use him as the bridge, and move them on. Now find a coach later on. But the NBA is just so incestuous about their hiring. It's just going to be some other guy that's been bounced around, fired more times than a Revolutionary War cannon, So the NBA is just that's what they do. Defensive Player of the Year. I was going to go with Wembanyama here too, but I wound up going with Domantas Sabonis. Led the league in rebounding, and I wanted to spread our awards out a little bit. People don't know about Sabonis. His father was one of the great players of the game of all time, one of the great international players of all time, and his son plays very, very similar to him. They're very, very large men, both of them, and he plays the center position, led the NBA in rebounding. So on our leaderboard, we usually go through the leaderboard. We're just going to give you the people right now that are in first place. All right? So in our leaderboard in scoring, Luka leading the league in scoring, 33.9. Giannis Antetokounmpo is behind him from the Milwaukee Bucks, and he's behind him by almost 3 points. So when they bounced Embiid out with his numbers, because at the NBA, in order to statistically qualify for some of this, you have to play X amount of games, just like they do with the awards now.
Yep.
So Embiid got bounced out, and that gave Luka the award. I would think Luka might have caught him, though, with the 33.9. The assists go to Tyrese Halliburton, the great guard out of Indiana Pacers. We love this young man. He's led the league in assists. He also provides a good scoring punch. I think the Indiana Pacers could be a good team to look at in the playoffs. Not sure who they're going to get right this moment. 3-pointers, Steph Curry, no surprise there. Luka came in second, though. That's pretty interesting. Rebounds was Domantas Sabonis. 13.7 rebounds a game. That's a great number. He's an intimidating factor in the lane, too. He's one of the big reasons that team's doing as well as they are. Blocks was Victor Wembanyama, and steals was SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Terrific guard from the Oklahoma City Thunder. All right, so right now in our play-in, it's bouncing. There hasn't been a whole lot of change. And if I was Joe Mazzulla, coaches sometimes get kept up at night by things. And the thing that's keeping Joe Mazzulla up right now is probably the fact that they could wind up with the Miami Heat in the first-round playoff here. He knows he's going to face a really, really good coaching staff there, knows that Spoelstra in a series is going to be problematic, knows that they're going to have an answer. They better have an answer, a better answer than they did so far for Jimmy Butler and some of the other good players there. But right now you're going to see the 76ers be in the 7th spot, and they will play the Heat. The Sixers have won 6 games in a row. Pete's throwing up our chart there. Yep, those are the chances, for people that are in the playoffs and where they could possibly go. What is their percentage to play in the 7-8 game? What is their percentage to play in the 9-10 game? What is their percentage to actually make the playoffs without being in the play-in game? What is their percentage to make the playoffs overall? So that's a nice little chart there. And right now you have the 76ers and the Heat are going to be in that 7-8 game in the Eastern Conference, and you will also have the Bulls 9 and the Hawks are 10. And so as we talked about last week on our show, a little bit of a malconfiguration, if that's actually a word, by the NBA here to go a little bit against the tide, where usually if you had those teams, you would go 7, 10, 8, 9. They've gone against the trend and gone to do something new. We're going with, on the Western Conference and the Western side, that's going to be interesting because right now the Suns are 1 game back of getting out. They're a game back with the Pelicans. The Pelicans are above them by 1 game, but there's only 1 game, but there's only 2 or 3 left, Pete. I think Sunday's it. I think we're at the very, very tip end of it here, but there are a couple of games to play, and it's only 1 game. That can change. So right then it would be the Suns and the Kings. Suns could slip out of there and wind up with the Pelicans spot. Pelicans could slip down. Then you have the Lakers and the Warriors also. The Lakers, are a half of game behind the Kings. And so they could slip into the 8th spot instead of being in the 9th spot right now. That's about one of the possibilities that occurs. Not too many other possibilities out there. We also have the other side as you see, we have both sides, I think, with the playoff situation. You have the Lakers in there, you have the Warriors in there, and their chances of playing in that play-in game are almost 100%. And that's going to be, the Lakers could slide, up to the Kings. And I think the NBA might prefer that personally, so keep an eye on this, what happens in the next day or so. They would probably want the Warriors and the Lakers not to match up against each other because you're eliminating one of their big marquee players in that matchup if it goes like that. I think the NBA wouldn't prefer that. Not sure how it's going to work. All right, so the Warriors and the Lakers, this was an interesting game because it had a lot of implication about the playoffs and who would move and who grooves. And the Warriors right now playing pretty good basketball and they're hot. They went 26 of 41, Pete, from three-point range. 26 of 41. 78 of their 134 points were on three-point shots.
Wow.
That's over half. Pretty good. Dirty Draymond, while he was on vacation after all of his episodes this year with assaulting people, all of that time off he received, he must have been working on his shooting during that time because he was 5 for 7 from three-point range. Steph Curry was 6 for 6. And Klay Thompson was 5 for 10. That's a barrage that not a lot of teams are going to be able to overcome if that continues, if they continue to shoot that way. Our guy that we showed in our Noxzema segment last week, Edwards, he had 51 points this week. And our guy, Domantas Sabonis, had a double-double streak of 61 games come to an end this week. So that was good news. Good news around the NBA. Good stuff. We're ready to jump into the NCAA fish. And right off the get-go, we're going to take you to the two biggest topics that happened, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about why In the Zone has a little bit of a bad taste in our mouth for the way some of this went down. All right? So, no problem with the game. It was great.
Yeah.
That's what Danny Hurley's teams do. They make a tough game look easy. As he said, they make a tough tournament look easy. And they did for 2 straight years in a row.
It's almost like they keep teams are in it for the first half, but it's like a running back in the NFL. The more touches they get, the better off they get, it's just like a train rolling.
That's a great analogy, Pete. What else did you see in the game?
I was listening to it in the car because we were stuck in traffic coming back from the eclipse. But
What'd you hear?
The back and forth I was listening to, and it's just. You would think that the big man from Purdue would just outlast, but he got tired midway through the second half. He started getting tired. You could hear it. You could hear the way the announcers were calling it.
And what?
Because he was trying to carry the whole team on his back.
He did. The rest of them gassed it.
That's
the
what I'm
rest
saying.
of them did not show. The rest of them did not put up a good performance. His performance was very, very strong. Really, really reaffirms with me that our position with him in the draft board is right about accurate. He's pretty good.
Yep.
I think he's going to be a force in the NBA if he gets the right thing. Now, I'm going to give out a little shout out to Zach himself, 7'4". I want you to change one thing before you enter the NBA, Zach, and this is the one thing I want you to do. It's going to help you tremendously. It's going to help your game immensely. All right? The first thing you do when you catch the ball is you're dribbling it. You're putting it on the floor. All right, when you get to the NBA, you're going to have to work that move without putting it on the floor. You're going to have to show something. You're going to have to counter something, and you're going to have to show footwork. Then when you get that angle, that's when you're going to use your dribble. That's when you're going to use your advantage. But what you're doing right now is taking the ball and dribbling it, and you're losing your mobility. You're losing your ability to create angles. Now, you're big enough to get away with that also, but when you get to the NBA and the bodies start to lock up, I'm going to tell you right now, keep that ball off the ground, make your first initial move, get a little reaction out of the defender, and then go to your dribble, then go to your power move, because what you're doing right now is pushing it down, and it's ruining your rhythm, and it's ruining your offensive skill set. So, like I said, give me a call anytime you want, Zach. We'll get in the gym for 10 minutes, and I'll tell you exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so the Huskies are howling, Pete, and boy, well, they should be. That was a great game. They have 2 straight titles. They have now entered into blue blood territory, Pete. Are they blue blood?
Yeah, I would think so.
They have to be considered blue blood now, especially when we look at what's happened since 2000. You know, since the new millennium, they really, really have performed well. And Danny Hurley, all credit to those guys. National Coach of the Year for Coach Hurley, well deserved. Just a great, great outlook on basketball. I like the way he approaches things. Of course, there's going to be people coming after it, but like he said, and I'll use this quote again, we made a hard tournament look easy, and boy, did they. Here's what I have a little dissent about, Pete. John Calipari is on the move. Okay, one step ahead.
When are the NCAA violations coming out?
This is a chess master. He's one step ahead. And so you go and you say, okay, I have no problem with any of what transpired, but you do not let that leak. You do not let that come out the day of the national championship game to detract from what went on with the basketball game. Nothing should detract in college basketball from that game.
When are you going to learn? Wait a minute, hold on.
From that moment. Now,
when are you going to learn it's all about Coach Cal?
Well, at least
who cares about the NCAA
At least to his
game?
credit, he said he didn't say it. He didn't tell anybody to say it. They actually wanted to give respect to the game and wait, but then somebody leaked it. Somebody got it. So
I'm not buying it.
When somebody has been dishonest with me in the past, it's a little difficult for me to jump in on their new story.
Right.
So I'll say you got a good deal at Arkansas. Arkansas got themselves a good coach, a program builder. I hope he puts some of the right pieces around him, to get a team that plays a little bit better on the defensive end of the basketball. And I think he's, been a kind of a mercurial guy in the coaching industry. A lot of people are very, very fond of him and think he's done a great job. And then there's other people who can't stand him and think that he's been deleterious to the game.
I see it both at the same time.
It is.
I like the guy.
It is.
He's a hell of a coach.
It is.
But he's done some dirty things.
He's the black and white cookie from the old Bronx bakeries.
There you go.
You used to go in and get a black and white cookie in the old Bronx bakeries, and one side would be chocolate, the other side would be vanilla, and both sides tasted pretty good, but one side was better than the other, and one side of him is definitely better than the other. And so that's what I look at him like.
Any UMass fan knows the equation, knows the riddle to that equation.
Yeah, and I think this is what happens when you give in to fear. When you don't think you're good enough, you start to cheat. When you don't think you're capable enough, when you look around the room and you think the guys in this place are better than me, that's when you start to cheat. But it only takes one or two people when that whole thing starts to go for everybody to perceive that that's the way it's done in the business. And to a large extent, there is some truth to that. But that also discounts a whole lot of people who didn't get involved in that and probably, suffered as a result of it. In music, they have all these things called one-hit wonders, and I think they're just really talented people who could have been really good, but they didn't want to play the game that they play up there. They didn't want to play that whole thing that goes on up there, and that's why they're one-hit wonders. And that's saddening because we seem to be quelling our best talent down so very few people can have their run of things. It's the same thing in basketball.
Yep.
It's the same thing in basketball. The DePaul job opens up. They grab the guy who just got let go at Ohio State and whose team won 6 of 7 games to close the season and marketably looked like someone took a lead balloon off of them. And DePaul couldn't wait to go and try and win a press conference and hire this guy. And I get it, but
that's a quick trip on the carousel.
Turn around. It's not. You didn't even have time to become a retread. He didn't even have. The same thing happened with Chris Beard. When he got fired at Texas, Mississippi scooped him right up. And we saw Will Wade didn't move this year, but he was free to move. And, there was talk of him moving from McNeese after getting jammed up at LSU, having to go to McNeese, and now saying, well, all these great jobs are looking at Will Wade. You send a real clear message. You send a really clear message that the best jobs in our business will be given to the people with the least amount of values and morals. That's the message you send to everybody. And that's where the message started a long time ago. It's a terrible message, and it's one of the reasons we're in the boat that we are right now.
Yep.
South Carolina defeats Iowa in the women's game. But this is what people ought to grab their hat, hold on, because they knocked the men's game right out of the park in terms of viewership. People are excited about women's basketball, and anybody who is tearing Caitlin Clark down, you're just chopping down the cherry tree. That's where all the fruit is right now. There's a reason that these numbers are where they are. And Caitlin Clark is a huge reason for that. And the other players around there, that with the Angel Reese and some of the other players around there that are personalities and exciting and good players, the game is hot right now. So
Yep.
I don't understand the whole teardown thing, but I'm going to give you the numbers. The men took 14.82 million viewers. Good numbers. Those
Yeah.
are not bad numbers.
Yep.
Here's the women's numbers: 18.87 million. That's a big percentage higher than the men too. That's not just that's a blowout. That's a TV blowout. And so, congratulations to the ladies. Congratulations to all of the coaching staffs that were in the Final Four. Coach Staley has really become, to me, the new Gino, new standard. Really doing a great job. And her team played flawlessly throughout the entire tournament, much like UConn. All right, Kentucky, now, because Mitch Barnhart is their athletic director, now because they don't have Calipari anymore, they now have to go find somebody. And that might seem easier than you might think, basketball land, basketball people. Here's what I'm saying to you. There's only, at least in their estimation, there's only a few people in the entire basketball orbit that can do that job, that can actually be successful at that job. That was the allure of Calipari, is that he could handle all that went with that job. So what happened is a lot of times when they're losing a coach, this is what I will say to people also who want to kind of get in on this and figure out this thing a little bit. I would imagine that the conversations that Coach Calipari had with Arkansas didn't start this week.
No, there's no way.
With a contract that complex,
Yeah, there's no
and
way.
everything else, there's no way that this started just now. And so that gives also, it gives your guy at Kentucky, the AD, a little bit of running room and time also to formulate his list of who am I going to get to replace this guy? Because as we said, there's not a ton of them. Okay, so they go out and swing, and they say, we're going to go after Hurley. We're going to throw a ton of money at Danny Hurley at UConn, and there's no way he's going to be able to turn down becoming the highest paid coach in the game. The highest paid coach in the game right now is Kansas. Bill Self makes close to $9 million. So Kentucky would have to go to the $10 million range with Coach Hurley in order to eclipse that. And they have indicated that they were more than ready, willing, and able to do all of that, in addition to supplying an NIL budget that's somewhere in the $4 to $5 million range, which seems to be where some of these teams are settling in with their NIL budgets. The really big power teams seem to be in that $4 to $5 million range that they're splitting up amongst the different people on the team. But what happens is now Barnhart's on the hot seat. Calipari, just like you said, Pete, he's one step ahead. I don't know if he plays chess at all, but he's generally one step ahead.
Yeah.
So he's gone to Arkansas. And I would imagine that Kentucky's big-time recruiting class that they signed this year, 6 players, what's the over-under on that, Pete? How
they're all
many
gonna
of those guys wind up in Razorback uniform?
I bet you they've already put themselves in the portal.
Some of them have asked to be released. Yep, and they're in the portal. So what do you think the over-under is on the 6? Because this will impact who Kentucky can get. What
I bet
condition
you
the program's in.
Two-thirds of them.
Okay, so you're going to say 4 out of 6 are going to go to Arkansas.
Yep.
And maybe 2 stay. And maybe 2 go someplace else. You know, they don't have to go to Arkansas.
Right.
They can open up right now and go someplace completely else. So now they go in and they say, okay, we're going to go after Hurley. Hurley kind of says, hey, man, talk to my wife. That was an interesting way to kind of deflect. He said, talk to my wife about this. She'll know. I don't know anything.
Hurley's
So
making about $5 million at UConn.
I would say he's in that range, and he's very comfortable.
Plus
and
bonuses.
And then what happens now is they're going to have to go back and they're going to rip that up, and it's not going to be $5 million. It's going to be somewhere in the realm of $8, $9 million, where Bill Self is, because Hurley has now, with the 2 championships, has brought himself into rarefied air as a coach. There's no question about it. And if you're paying $9 million at the top, he certainly belongs in that category. I don't agree with $9 million for a college basketball coach. I can say that easily. But if that's the rate, then that's what he deserves. And so I think that's going to be interesting now because I think Barnhart, they were like, we got Calipari by the nose, we got him right where we want him. I don't know, because they now don't get Hurley, let's say. Nate Oates from Alabama was also one of the names thrown around. He says, no, I'm staying at Alabama. They go to Jay Wright, who's on the television, retired from Villanova, still has a great tan, looks amazing, has a great television gig. They say, we're going to go get Jay Wright. Jay Wright says, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm not jumping back in here. One of the reasons Jay Wright left college basketball is because of the condition that it's in right now. You lost some really good coaches because the NCAA is completely out of control. Jim Boeheim probably wouldn't have gone. Roy Williams, Mike Krzyzewski would have stuck around a little bit longer, I think. And certainly the same thing over here. And we'll see what happens with some of these other coaches. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility where you would see some of these other coaches. But now, they swung and missed. They said Billy Donovan. Oh, no. Billy Donovan says, I'm staying with Chicago Bulls. I really like it here in the NBA. So now you're swinging and missing, and that makes the AD look bad. And so how many swings and misses can you have? And you don't know if they're actual swings or misses. You don't know if they talk to Billy Donovan or Billy Donovan's just waving at reporters going, I'm not interested. They're asking questions about it. I'm not interested. He was an assistant coach there. He played for Rick Pitino in college. So we definitely have the right people. They were talking about Brad Stevens, who's the general manager of the Celtics. And Brad Stevens is, I think I'm good.
I got a nice gig right now.
Right. So what do you do now if you're Barnhart? Where do you go? And the way I think he goes is I don't want to upset any fans or anything thinking their coach is going out anywhere, but I would not rule out Mark Few from Gonzaga right now because that's a name that saves Barnhart's hat. That's the one that can save him. Scott Drew from Baylor is also being talked about. I think that's a pretty good save as well. If he's got a dip, if they say no, and these are head fakes, so they can get their own contract redone, and they get wiped out. Now you're into a situation where Kentucky's really, really going to be grasping for straws, and they're going to wind up, having a situation that's certainly you're going to compare that person to Calipari, in terms of this is what you had, and now this is what you have, and you're walking into a program that's going to be well resourced, but under human resourced. You don't have any players right now. You got to go find some. And what I say to people all the time is, as well as there's not a lot of coaches that can coach at Kentucky, there's also not a lot of players that can play at Kentucky because you're at the highest level. And so what happens is the new coach comes in. It's not going to be that immediate to just jump in the portal and sign this guy and sign that guy. And the McDonald's All-Americans are all committed and going somewhere else. And so this year, you're going to have to sit it out maybe. And if Calipari goes in and poaches your entire roster,
sure, yeah,
including not only his recruits that were there, but anybody who is on the existing roster right now who might want to go with him. Does Dillingham turn pro? Or does he go to Arkansas and take a couple of mil on a NIL deal? Rob Dillingham. What about Reed Shepherd? National Rookie of the Year maybe at Kentucky. Does he come to Arkansas with Calipari and try and win a national title? Or does he enter the NBA draft? Does he stay at Kentucky? Those are all the unknowns right now for the new coach. And the longer it takes it, because what you've seen on this carousel, as it has spun with much greater ferocity and speed, because ADs know if you don't find a coach very, very quickly, your own program's in disarray. The portal is being unattended to. Your NIL money isn't being raised. And so right then, when you take that stop, you better be ready to go. And you can see that the pressure's on these ADs, and it's going bang, 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 bang. Like DePaul took a really, really long time, I thought. That was the first job open, took a really long time. But then you went through Michigan, Dusty May. You went to Louisville, Pat Kelsey after. They swung and missed on a couple of people. But they went fast this year because they had to. They picked people quickly this year because they had to, which tells you that these conversations are taking place long before those jobs even open. These conversations are taking place long, long before that opens.
Is that all within the NCAA rules, or are they skirting the rules on that?
Those are against the coach's contractual rules and obligations to his employer. All right? So in the contract, it says that you're not allowed to talk to anybody else.
Without permission from the school.
Without permission from the school, correct. So I think that schools would be a little wiser. I don't know that they could, but maybe to expand that into the players, not the players so much, but anybody involved in this now, NIL or whatever, has an agent. And so maybe that communication has to be restricted because what you're saying to the coach is, Coach, we don't want you talking to anybody right now unless you come to us and seek permission. Now, the other piece of it is some of these coaches have very large buyouts on their contract. So the other school now has to be involved in as much as Kentucky is now going to find a new coach. They're going to have to maybe come up and pony up some dough, NIL-wise. They're going to have to put together a tremendous salary to try and alleviate the loss of Calipari and what Calipari was making at the time. And then they're going to have to find the right person in order to do that. I think they're in a little bit of trouble over there. I think the longer this goes, the longer it's going to be a problem. The longer this goes, the longer it's going to be a problem. We're going to give you a little bit of a carousel rundown on what's occurred so far at some of the major positions that have gone on. Just a quick, brief 1 through 9, and just give you an idea of what's transpired. Arkansas was vacated when their coach went out to the West Coast to go and take the USC job, which had been vacated by Andy Enfield. And Andy Enfield will wind up someplace else for sure. I think he already did at SMU. So I'm not sure if he was let go by USC, but he did after SMU. Again, this is the conversations that take place a long time before, because when SMU let go of Rob Lanier, who wound up getting the Rice job 2 days later, they had Enfield in the filter already. They had him in there already. It was 2 days later, and they had signed him. So these conversations are happening way back, and the way they're violating the contract is they're letting somebody else do the talking for them. They're triangulating it out. The coach doesn't directly speak to the other school. Somebody does this talking for the coach. That's how these things are moving as fast as they are. It's all agents right now. It's all people that are talking on the phone with ADs and with college presidents and with board of trustee members, and that's how they're coming up with this. And it's coming up with it at the rate that they're coming up with it. There's no way you can't tell me that at least they're not violating the spirit of that contract.
Sure, yeah.
You know, they certainly are violating it in some way. Arkansas goes after Calipari. That AD, you got to give him his credit. You know, whether you like Calipari or not, that's a good hire for Arkansas because Calipari needed probably to get out of Kentucky. His saying was they needed a new voice. And I thought he was very classy and put together some really good things about being at Kentucky and his new excitement about being at Arkansas. I thought he was pretty reserved and pretty well mannered and didn't take any shots at anybody.
Yeah, wasn't Bonnie and Clyde being one step ahead of the feds?
We'll see. What is illegal now?
Well, it's true.
That's what you would have
Back
to
in
really
the days of
tell me.
UMass, you knew what was right and what was wrong.
So what is illegal is the contact with the players before the portal opens. So obviously, if you have all of these players moving around and then they get, picked up very, very quickly, you can probably give an indication that somebody was in their ear long before that portal opened. So they're talking about Patino down at St. John's. You might as well talk about every person that's in NIL, Division I right now. They're talking to somebody else's players a long time before that portal opens. And that's something that isn't legal. We'll see what the NCAA does with it. But the NCAA right now, they need a set of dentures because they have no teeth. Their teeth have been knocked out. Michigan goes after Dusty May. Juwan Howard goes out. Dusty May goes in. Florida Atlantic, really good run to the Final Four. Does a really good job with his team on defense, I think. And he's an exciting coach. That was a pretty good hire for Michigan, I think. Ohio State took Jake Diebler. One of the reasons you never fire your coach in the middle of the year because exactly what happened to Ohio State. He took them on a run, made it look good. And he's never coached before in his life. And I think there were at least 200, 250 resumes in the country better than that one. Had they hold on to Holtzman as long as they did, Holtzman could have slipped out and went to DePaul, and then they could have had a search and gone through and wound up with some really, really big names at Ohio State. I really think that's a great job. A lot of people would really, really be excited to be around that job. SMU, Andy Enfield over, Rob Lanier out, but at Rice, thankfully, fell in and had a good landing spot. Vanderbilt took Mark Byington the James Madison coach, who really surprised the nation this year with a tremendous year, a win in the NCAA tournament, a big victory over the Michigan State Spartans. So it was a great year for Mark Byington. Takes the Vanderbilt job, which has about a $4 or $5 million NIL set up right now. They're all set up, ready to go with a $4 or $5 million NIL setup. And what you're going to think, like I said, there is the dark side of the NIL and all this other stuff, but there is a one side of the NFL, of the NIL, that in this range of the people that are using it now, Vanderbilt would never, ever be able to compete for the same recruits that everybody was competing for. Now, there's a myriad of reasons why that would happen, but they would never be able to compete for the best players. Now, if they put enough money on the table, they can go and buy themselves enough players to be competitive, to be one of the best teams in the country. So it's going to be about now with coaches. This is, I think, something that they're not realizing, especially on that top level. You better have some really good evaluators around you, because you're spending $1 million, you're spending $700,000 on a recruit now, and that's going to tie up a lot of your NIL money. And so what you're going to wind up doing is chasing some of these young men out after they don't produce, and after you were wrong, basically, about their talent. You assessed it wrong, and now you're going to have to go and you're going to wind up changing your lineup. That's exactly 50% of the formula that's happening. Yes, a lot of the players are going into the portal for having visions of grandeur. Tell me 18, 19, 20-year-olds that don't have those visions, and tell me that they shouldn't. They should think big. We want our young thinking big, okay? But now you go into that portal, and some of them aren't going up. Some of them going down. Some of them are getting released from their programs because the coaches now don't have to honor their contract with them, which is the scholarship national letter of intent. Nobody has to honor anything right now. And so this is what I talk about as being a Wild West show. But the good side about that is now Vanderbilt, Northwestern, or some of those teams that have been perennially the catfish of those superpower conferences can now put an NIL budget together if they have the right amount of money, and they can get it done.
Pull all those players in, yeah.
They can just pull them in. Yeah, so that, we'll see. All right, College of Charleston went to Chris Mack. Chris Mack was the coach that got let go at Louisville. I'm not sure if it was 1 or 2 years where he was off the sidelines. But College of Charleston went, retread, but a great coach. In his time, he had the Louisville job doing well. He was a coach at Xavier. So he's young enough. Somebody was going to pick him up. And that job, College of Charleston, that's a really good job. My thing is when guys get bounced, okay, I don't think they should never work again. I think they should have to go down to other levels and work their way back up. That's what I think. I think they should have to go, like, from here, you go and you say, okay, I got bounced from Ohio State, and then I get DePaul. So he went from, $5 million down to $3.5 million. You can feel bad for the person. Obviously, getting terminated from a job is never cool. But there's
not that big of a
really
loss.
Soft landing spots for some of these guys as well. And so that's part of it as well. Chris Mack, a couple of years out of the business, he took a lot of reputation damage as well too. So it's good to get him back in. But College of Charleston is one of the best jobs around on the mid-major level. And what happens is when you go to a Jim Christian, who wound up going back to Canisius, who was at Boston College, and now you go back to this guy Mack. If they couldn't succeed at the level they were at with all of the resources that they had, what makes you think they're going to be able to do it at this place with less resources, less talent, and all of that other stuff? I don't get it. But a lot of times ADs are wrought with fear, and this is what they do. They just go grab the guy that's going to create the biggest name, the biggest splash in the press conference, and then, as you see, the carousel spins every single year, and every single year we're turning over significant portions of our business for new jobs. And it's not something that's going to, sit well, because not only are your rosters turning over now your coaching positions are turning over left and right, and you don't have any continuity. You don't have anything that
It was a lot easier before the portal for coaches bouncing around, because at least you knew what you were getting into when you got there.
Okay.
Now you don't even know that.
So this needs to be said, okay? It's not going to be popular, but this needs to be said. All of the stuff that people don't like right now has been because of years and years of malfeasance by the NCAA being on the other side of these people's constitutional rights and their abilities to be able to earn money, to do all of these things in order to comply with their trade. This is restraint of trade that's been going on for a very, very long time by telling people you can't work, you can't have a job. This was the NCAA playing heavy for all of these years. And now, like I said, they got their teeth kicked down their throat by this. Okay, and now they need a set of dentures because they don't even have teeth right now. Nobody is having any respect for them. There is no fear of their enforcement abilities. And right now you have an absolute wild, wild west show going on in college basketball. Go ahead right now, because they got a few of those prognosticator guys out there digging in and going, oh, we got a way too early top 25. Go ahead. Tell me who's going to be on those rosters right now. Go ahead. Tell me what kind of continuity they're going to have. Tell me who's going to be on Kentucky's roster when you just picked them in the top 5. Tell me who's going to be on Arkansas's roster when you didn't pick them in the top 5 and Calipari's poaching 4 out of 6 McDonald's All-Americans. Tell me how that feels when you get done with it, all right? Because right now, you're crazy. You're crazy. Duquesne, I like this hire. Duquesne, the coach stepped out and did a Dave DeBusschere. Great move. Been there a long time. Finally got to the NCAA tournament. What a great story for Duquesne. Wound up winning a game. Great team, good game all the way through the A10 tournament. Knocking off some of the big dogs over there. Knocking off the Dayton and the other great teams that are in the Atlantic 10. But they wound up doing a great job there. And the coach retires at that moment. Just like Dave DeBusschere right after the Knicks won a championship, he retired as well too. So just a really, really good shout out to the coach there as well. Keith Dambrot, great career. Congratulations on your retirement, coach. And now they go to Drew Joyce, and I think that team is going to be all right. I think they're going to be okay. What's Keith Dambrot's claim to fame is that you can say his name, Dambrot. He was LeBron James's high school coach.
Oh.
So good one. Good little note there. All right, Pete, can you throw up do we have any Noxzema?
Yeah, I got an amen for you.
We got an amen. All right, this is the new Noxzema. Amen, Thompson. Woo-hoo. Get a hold of this, folks. It's going to go quick. Down the line we go. Opens it up. Beats his man off the dribble. Help comes, dunks it on 2 people. That's a freshman. That's a rookie. And him and his brother might be 2 of the best athletes currently in the NBA right now. Look at this dunk. That is amazing. That is amazing. I give them both credit for trying to stop this, too, because this guy got beat. There's actually 3 guys there, and what a great crossover step that was as well, too. So that's our Noxzema segment. It's in your face. Somebody got it in their face right there, dunked on bad.
Before we go, you want to do the Power 15?
We're going to go Power 15 right now. Yeah, we got it. We're grooving. We've got about 10 minutes, Pete?
Yep.
All right. And we'll talk about what this has impact for the playoffs as well. But there is no chance in any Power 15 that we do from here on out. And I promise next week I'll give you this year's NCAA top 25. After it's all done, after it was all over, obviously UConn would be your number 1. You can put Purdue in as number 2. We'll come back next week. We'll give you the top 25 for this year. I couldn't even tell you who is going to be in the top 25 next year because of all of the motion and all of the synergy and energy that's going on around here. Boston Celtics will not fall out of the top of the Power 15 for the rest of the year, though. There's only a couple of games left, and 62-17, that's something. That's something. I don't know where that ranks in terms of the all-time great records of all time, but that's something. That's a really, really great record. And Coach Mazzulla, that's why we gave him the Coach of the Year, because that being with a really good team with high expectations isn't a joke either. Having everybody sit there and go, oh, they should win every single game. They should be 82-0. That's not that easy either. But I thought he produced 62-17. Got to be happy with
it's a
that.
hell of a record.
Ready for the playoffs, but you know, as they say, one crap wipes out a bunch of attaboys. So if they go down in the playoffs, man, there's going to be a bunch of scrutiny on that. Minnesota Timberwolves fighting it. They're fighting it. They're bouncing back and forth. They will get their big man back. This is something that I wanted to talk about also. Is this there was several trips possibly to Lourdes, you know, for some healing. And we're getting some of that back now. And so I love it. The NBA players have their chance to go over there, and heal up, go to Lourdes and get blessed by the Virgin Mary. I'm so happy about it. Embiid from the 76ers is back. That's why they've won 6 in a row. You have Big Cat Karl Anthony Towns for the Wolves. He seems to be back for the playoffs, and the Hawks get Trae Young back just in time for the playoffs. Okie doke. Power 15, Pete, is the Wolves in second, and they're bouncing around with the Nuggets, as you can see, very, very close to see who's going to be that number one team. And you can tell right now, the Timberwolves have won 2 in a row. They're 8-2 in their last 10. The Nuggets are hot too. A lot of teams in the West Conference are hot because a lot of the bottom teams have just quit and gone home. And so they're cleaning up on some of that. You'll see that with Golden State and the Lakers. But the Nuggets are right there, nestled in third. If I say it's going to be the Celtics and the Nuggets right now, folks, that's what I'll claim. They've won 2 in a row. They're also 7-3 in their last 10. And if you're looking to see who are you going to pick in a money line situation or any of those gambling situations, you want to look at who's hot right now. You want to look at who's healthy and hot right now. But what you see here is the Celtics took the number 1 spot, but then the Western Conference goes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Before the Bucks jump in there, because the Bucks have been in free fall. So you got the OKC Thunder, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, really good team. I'm excited to see them in the playoffs. A really, really good record, 54-25. I don't think that anybody would have called that up. Right now they're 5-5 in their last 10, though, so they got to recalibrate here and get ready for the playoffs. The Clippers, really, really good year for the Clippers. They got a lot of talent on this team. They have 4. When you look at the Lakers group of 4 and say, they have an amazing group of 4, and then you look at the Clippers group of 4, don't be surprised if the Clippers clip some people over in that Western Conference and wind up being the finals, because if they stay healthy, they're an offensive juggernaut. They are an offensive juggernaut. And James Harden has done very well fitting in there this year. Dallas Mavericks 49-30, and they're 6th overall in all of the Power 15. And that puts them, nestled in nicely in the 4 spot. That's why we went to Luka. And Kyrie's playing very good basketball right now as well. Dallas Mavericks 49-30. I think if you went into the year and said, would you take that? I think they probably would have signed up for that. The Bucks have been an absolute free fall. They've won 1. They're 4-6. The opposite of the Mavericks, who are 9-1 in their last 10 and are very, very hot with 4 in a row. The Knicks are bouncing up and down because of injuries. Randall does not look like he'll be back for the playoffs. They did get OG Anunoby back. They're playing better with him back. If they didn't get either one of those 2 guys back, it would have been a quick series for them. I think they'll be able to fend off the front line, help with the other teams with this, but we'll see. The Pelicans, great year for the Pelicans. Zion stayed healthy the whole year, led that team, moved them to the point, and he was a distributor. He was a force, and I think he had a great year. And at 47-32 for them, 15 games over the 500 mark, something special. They are right now 5-5. They've won 2 in a row, but they've kind of been struggling. The Orlando Magic in the 10th spot, we love it. They've had a good year. They're doing pretty good. They've got a good young team. So if this team stays together, if that franchise can keep their key players together, I think that's a team you want to keep an eye on in the future. 46-33. They also are 5-5 right now. They got to restart that engine and get ready for the playoffs. Phoenix, the Suns, living on Kevin Durant and living on Devin Booker, but Durant's playing very, very well right now. That's going to be interesting to see, if they can pop up out of the play-in game and into the regular playoff format, or they're going to wind up in that play-in game, and that's going to be rough. So we'll see what happens there. Keep an eye on that one. Cleveland Cavaliers have fallen like a rock here, and they're going down quick. We kind of anticipated this could happen because I think they flew a little too high to begin with, and now they have some injuries. Now they got a couple. They didn't have any room for injury, and when you get injuries on a team that doesn't have the depth that the Celtics have, that the Nuggets have, you can be problematic, and it has been for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Indiana Pacers, great year. They're 3 in a row. They're 7-3 in their last 10. They have Halliburton back. They picked up Pascal Siakam in the Toronto Raptor fire sale. So I think they're moving in the right direction, and they got a good little juggernaut team there that could be problematic. I think they could wind up getting matched up with the Knicks right now in some series, and that'd be a really good series. Okay, so you got the Sacramento Kings and the Philadelphia 76ers. Boom, boom. The Kings are 5-5 in their last 10, getting some players back that had been injured, getting some players back to make that playoff run. They'll get a good spot, but they're going to get a tough seed. They're going to be seeded tough because they may be in that playing game. They could get bounced into that playing game. The Philadelphia 76ers, 45-35. They've won 6 games in a row since the big guy's back. So that's really, really cool that they get back and they got that little bit of extra spark. They're 7-3 in their last 10 heading into the playoffs. They could be a really, really difficult play-in game for somebody. If you're going to go at them one time and Embiid's healthy, rested, and going at it, and the rest of the team is buoyant because of his return, they feel good about his return, then I think you're going to have a really, really tough opponent. The teams that are hot right now in the NBA, we're going to go with the 76ers, who've won 6 in a row, and that started the day Joel Embiid returned. Great, great effort by the team. And if you're looking at playoff teams that are hot, this team's coming in scalding hot out of Philadelphia. The Clippers have won 4 in a row. So have the Mavericks. Mavericks have been struggling a little bit. They came back, won 4 in a row. And we're proud to name Luka our MVP for the year. We think he had an amazing year. Okay, so who's not hot? And what you're going to see here is these are the teams that have packed it up, and they're gone for the year. They have no shot at making the playoffs. Some of their players have skipped out and have declared themselves injured for the rest of the year. And so that's what happens when it goes bad. There's been some good stories down there a little bit. Jalen Duren has been a pretty good story down there. They've had some good stories. Wembanyama has been a good story despite the Spurs having such difficulty. But right now, Utah Jazz have lost 13 in a row. And the Raptors had a really, really amazing losing streak going as well. Who did the Raptors take that streak and break it against, Pete?
I don't know.
The 3 worst teams in the league they lost to, bang, 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 the Milwaukee Bucks. They're looking, I'm sitting there going, the Raptors are playing the Bucks, and they've lost 13, 14 in a row. They're going to win tonight. And so So Washington, the Wizards have lost 4 in a row. They're not a very strong franchise. They need a lot of help over there. And Detroit, L5, they've had the monster losing runs of the year and had some really, really, tough goes of it. So they're a franchise that's in complete disarray. What they need to do in Detroit is go in and completely clean out their administrative staff. Get yourself some general managers in there that know basketball. Get yourself some people in there that know how to pick basketball players, because right now your team is in complete and utter disarray. Okay, so that kind of wraps it for us, Pete. I wanted to talk to everybody a little bit about what we saw in the tournament, just to close out in terms of when we start to now really focus on the NBA draft board. What do I got, about 2 minutes, Pete?
About a minute or so, yeah.
1 minute. Okay, I'm going to go fast then. All right, so what I see is Zach Edey a lottery pick? Absolutely, yes, he is. Is Donovan Clingan a very, very high NBA pick? Yes, he is. If Newton comes out, what a game he had against Purdue. If he comes out, I would see him in the lottery. I would say that you could put Stefan Castle into the lottery as well. So UConn could have 3 possible players in the lottery. That's unbelievable. I like Zach Edey moving up the line there. I think that's a really, really great career for him, an unbelievable set of stats and all that good stuff. And so next week and the weeks going forward, we'll get you into our In the Zone in the draft, and we'll get ready for that in June. Pete, the fastest hour in basketball, In the Zone, baby. We'll see you next week.